Hey, Daily Bible Time, Monday morning, and the question, when to marry. We're in 1 Corinthians 7 and the last of our series in 1 Corinthians 7, and verse 36, if any man thinks he's acting improperly towards his virgin, if she's past marriageable age, and so it must be, he can do what he wants. He's not sinning, they can get married. The word improperly there, we're likely to read that word differently to how Paul meant it in his conversation with the Corinthian church. I suspect, on first reading, one might think that when Paul says, if any man thinks he's acting improperly towards his virgin, you might think that that man has overstepped the mark physically, has touched part of her that he hasn't got, and I actually don't think that's what Paul means. In the conversation from the Corinthian perspective, where the aesthetic is the holy, they were nowhere near in the Corinthian church overstepping the physical mark issue. Rather, to want to get married was being frowned upon and was seen unseemly in the eyes of the people who were writing to Paul. Or it could be that she's past marriageable age. She's over 18 and he's making her wait. And that is actually closer to the issue that we have today. The couple have been going out for ages. She's been hanging around him. He's been sitting on the fence. It's been 6-8 years. In that way, he's taking her for granted. He's acting improperly towards her. And I do think that is a bit of an issue in some relationships that I see around the place. I'd want to say, actually, if you're not interested in marriage, then just get off the field. Make clear to people that you're not playing, but don't waste other people's time. But Paul says, verse 36, if any man thinks he's acting improperly towards his virgin, if she's past marriageable age, and so it must be, he can do what he wants, he's not sinning, they can get married. So if you want to marry, at that point, then marry. Don't feel like you're being ungodly by marrying. But, and then Paul now speaks to those who are considering singleness. He gives 4 reasons. But he who, 1, stands firm in his heart, 2, is under no compulsion, 3, has control over his own will, and 4, has decided in his heart to keep his own virgin, will do well. So if you decide not to marry, then that's fine. That's great. You can get on with single-minded service. So he who marries his virgin, 38, does well. It's godly, right, and proper. But he who does not marry will do better. That's also excellent option. In fact, it has practical advantages. So when do you marry? Well, if you have single friends, and single friend actually, and they're of the opposite sex, not the same family, Christian, able to marry, striving to be godly, you like talking to each other, they want to have sex, or they're complaining about the difficulties of sexual self-control, then tell them to marry. And if they say, no, we can't get married, why can't you get married? Well, we've got these other things. All you need is 2 birth certificates in 31 days. That's the government's expectation. Well, we don't know each other well enough yet. We're not sure if we're compatible. We're not ready for marriage. We're not old enough. We can't afford it. We're saving up. Our parents wouldn't approve. 12 months. And the reply is actually to say to them, if you're not ready for marriage, then you're not ready for sex. In the Bible, sex without marriage is fornication, that is sin. Sex is one of God's ways of telling us when and whom we should marry. And so therefore, don't rev the sexual passions with somebody you're not planning to marry. I hear in some Christian circles, in some Christian subcultures, boyfriend-girlfriend thinking that, genital intercourse is wrong, passionate kisses are okay, physical caresses are for people who really like each other, going out, touching parts of them you haven't got. And that's a Pharisaism. There's only 2 categories. Either she's your wife or she isn't. And if she isn't your wife, she's your sister in Christ. And 1 Timothy 5:1, do not rebuke an older man harshly, but exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. How do you treat a sister? With absolute purity. I'll show affection to my sister, but I will only strive to sexually arouse my wife. So, if she's not your wife, then you can be affectionate, but do not pursue arousal. Now, 2 ways of life. There's marriage and there's singleness. You hear that song, all my friends are getting married. Yeah, they're all growing old. They're all staying home on the weekends. They're all doing what they're told. Each state has its advantages and disadvantages. marriage, the advantages of marriage, companionship, and you can do your task of filling the earth. But there are lots of difficulties. Now you have to live with that tension of serving family and serving the Lord, or there could be a temptation to focus on the family and just tuck the Lord in around the edges, and that's the wrong way to go. Singleness, there are advantages. You can be much more single-minded in your service of the Lord, and yet there are temptations to pity, to loneliness, and to sexual fantasy. Thanks for being with us on Daily Bible Time today. Tomorrow morning we're going to pick up a new chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 8. I hope you'll join us for that and be back with us. Do click like at the end of this post, or write amen if you agreed with what's been said here today.